Hey guys, welcome to this episode of On the Horizon. Trouper's back on the podcast. He's back from Europe.
I'm back. Yep.
So, we're going to talk a little bit today about his hunt in Europe. Okay. A little bit jealous. Oh, I'm a lot bit jealous. So tell us a little bit about what you got to do this last week.
Yeah, so this last week was a lot of fun. So I guess the trip started.
I'm going to start my timer. Sorry.
Oh, he's got to put
I'm going to put you on the clock.
Okay.
Because if not,
I'm going to get free words in while you're doing that.
Okay, get it.
So the trip started off with, so it was my brother's wedding. It was in Italy.
That's right? Convenient.
And so we had to go over there to northern Italy. And so my wife, kids, everyone were there. And the family was doing vacation before and after. And just looking at their travel, they were going to end up being on trains for a couple days.
So you were like, I don't need to do that.
I was like, do I really want to be just traveling only to just fly from another airport? I'm like, no, I got a better idea. And so I found an opportunity to hunt chamois in Italy.
Which I didn't know chamois were in Italy. I've always wanted that. Like, I want to go to New Zealand. That's the number one animal.
That's on your list, right?
That's on my list.
They're very cool looking.
It's like a mountain goat.
It is. Yeah. They're sort of little mountain goats. But I had the opportunity to hunt there. And in Italy, it's kind of interesting because apparently there's days of the week when you aren't allowed to shoot. Well, that's what the guide service told me is they have some quiet days.
So you can still go hunt, but you just can't pull the trigger, or like they just don't go out at all?
I mean, like you could hunt, but it worked out really well for me because the way they lined up, we had wedding and the day I needed to transfer was a quiet day. And so, man, I just like booked it over there and
nice.
Got in the Alps. Valclaria was the name of this like valley or area that we were hunting.
What does that mean, Valclaria? Claria is that like Clear Valley or something?
I think that's
look at me doing
kind of what it means. But it was a really interesting place. So it's on the border with France. But what's really cool for those history buffs out there is it's one of the areas that they think Hannibal brought his troops and elephants over the Alps when he was invading Rome.
Crazy.
What
year would that have been?
Oh, gosh. Would that have been Rome? So it had been a couple thousand years ago.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Well, the wild part is, and this happens several times throughout the hunt because it's a mountain hunt. We're hiking, and every time you about start feeling good about yourself that you're like hiking, you're getting it done, then you see a settlement, and you're like, no, people have been living up here. The guy brought his army over. Like, it's,
Well, it's nuts based on some of your pictures. One of the drops some of the video in here, but how steep that country is pretty wild.
Whew, it's super steep. I don't know how passable it would have been if there weren't trails, or at least paths. I don't know if they're actually trails; they're paths.
Elephant paths left over.
Well, some of them are washed out, but super steep. Waterfalls everywhere. Beautiful country. It's like a lot of mountain hunts when you're up in mountains like that. They're really rugged. It's very pretty, but man,
so
it's also rough.
You didn't get a chance to carry your Horizon.
No.
Tell us about the gun deal. Could you have gotten a gun over there?
So super interesting. So yes, I could have. I tried to. The group I went with, they changed the person who was coordinating my hunt, probably for reasons like my experience, just candidly. They slow played a lot. So to get the firearm in, I needed to get a European firearms license first and then get an import license to bring it into Italy.
And maybe this year we get over to Iwa, we get some dealers over there.
Well, that's what I'm hoping. And so interesting story on the gun side. The gun side will come full story here for us.
There you go.
Because the guy who provided me a rifle at the end of the day ended up being an importer.
Oh, nice.
In Italy. So anyway, they've kind of slow played this process. I can't bring a Horizon. I tried. And so I'm going to rent a gun. Okay. We'll make do. It'll still be fun.
Well, what was the feeling where you're like, gosh, I hope it's not this brand or this brand or this brand? I would have been.
So it wasn't so much brand. I figured in Europe, it's probably going to be a decent brand. What I was really hoping is that it wasn't one of those dumb things where like you got a 375 H&H. Like we got one rental gun for everybody from Red Stag down, and here's this like a monster for this little bitty goat. That's what I was really hoping it wasn't.
So you had no idea.
So I had no idea, and I had challenge again. I go back like. The person's not there anymore, so let that speak for itself. I had a lot of challenges setting up anything beyond pure logistics. So, hey, when do I get to shoot the gun? When do I get to see the gun? When do I get to know what caliber I'm shooting or anything? And none of that. So we roll in blind. We're over there for the wedding, and within a couple days of the hunt, my guide is like, hey, my wife had medical emergency. Don't worry, I got like another guy.
Don't worry, I got a guy.
I got another guy. So they get me connected with another guy. And we show up the first morning of the hunt, and we're getting ready to go up the mountain. We're at the spot, and he says, "Hey, so is the gun? I think they call it like fucile or something like that. Is the gun in the pack?" I'm like, "No, dude, y'all have the gun, right?" So no gun.
So the first day you hunt without a gun?
No. First day, so we have no gun, and so I'm like, well, there's no point going up the mountain with no gun.
Yeah. You didn't want to get some rug practice?
And so, not without a gun. So
funny.
they worked some things out, found a guy who came up, and he shows up about 10 o'clock. So we lost about 3 hours that first morning.
Same.
And so we went back down, and we ended up glassing and helping. There's another hunter hunting the same valley for red stag while I was hunting
that's cool.
chamois.
So you get to kind of like tag along a redstone.
Yeah, we're kind of spotting for him down below. And it's pretty wild. You can see way up into there. That's cool. So we're spotting for him, trying to help him. He ended up kind of crazy. He ended up shooting his stag, and on his way to go find it, it was rainy that day and a little bit of an older gentleman, and he slipped and fell. And so
we got in that country, you're like long ways.
Well, and we got like a picture. The guy that was with him sent a picture to our guide. I'm like, that dude's laying down in the creek. And I'm like, he's unconscious. And there's like a little bit of blood on his head. Oh, my goodness. And so about the time my gun arrives, we're like, we need to go up there. And, my hunt may have to wait a little bit, but we need to go up there and like help get him down because he doesn't look like he's getting up and moving very well. So that's how I ended up hunting where I hunted the first day. So there's a different location.
Did you get the guy out?
The chamois. And so we're going up, and we're about halfway up, and they said, hey, well, I think what we're actually going to do is bring a helicopter in and get him off. Oh, my
goodness.
So they're like, well, we're already halfway up this mountain. We're going to hunt this mountain. Yeah. This is where we're going to be. And then a little bit after that, he kind of started feeling better. They got some guys down, and they just like walked him down, carried his gear out separate. So he was good, but like it was a wild... It's a wild first several hours.
Crazy.
And so, so we're up there, but I've got the gun, and we're part of the way up, and that's where we find, kind of our first chamois that was shootable. And in true form, right, you get hunter's dilemma on day one, right? So for those out there who haven't experienced, hunter's dilemma comes about when you got to hunt and you see an animal early in your hunt, however long your hunt is, early-ish. And you're faced with that choice of like, it's not a monster, but it is a respectable shooter.
Yep.
And so I made the call, don't pass on day one what you'd be more than happy to shoot on the last day. And so for me, it was a 2-day hunt. So tomorrow was the last day.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I was like, no, we're gonna get this one. And if I find, we'll hunt hard for a bigger one the next day.
Yeah.
And that's the game plan we went on. So super steep country. And so we're setting up on
So at this point, have you seen the gun? Are you carrying the gun?
I'm carrying the gun. Okay. So, my thing when I'm hunting with guys, just personal preference, I prefer to carry as much of my own stuff as I can. Yeah. I try to view the guide as someone who's been to the country before and who can get me onto an animal, understand the sizes, the rules. But I try not to use the guide as someone carrying all my stuff or like doing the heavy lift.
Yep.
And so I was carrying the gun and my pack and all that kind of good stuff up the mountain. I had seen the gun about 5 minutes before we started going up. And it was very interesting because normally, it's obviously high risk.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about this gun. I did not get to shoot this gun.
So you have no idea if it's zeroed?
No idea if it's zeroed. And the guy who brought it doesn't speak much English, only speaks really Italian. And so we're using the Google Translate is about 80% accurate, which is mostly good, right? But it's a little interesting at times. But I had to make a call, and what I looked at, he brought me he had a Winchester Model 70 with I think it was a Bushnell duplex. I knew it was going to be a duplex, non-dialable turret. But
what ammo?
Talking to the guy, I kind of made a judgment call that he knew what he was doing. Because I looked at how he had the gun set up, and he had clearly like done some stuff on the rings that looked really solid. I mean, you work with guns, you get an idea.
Yeah.
And then he was walking me through the use of his gun in a way that I really respected as someone, he doesn't know me either, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And then we dry fired the trigger, and he had clearly done trigger work on that gun. And so I went into it basically with the assumption that this is probably a pretty solid setup.
Is it pre-64, do you know?
No, it was not. It was like a mountain style.
Okay.
And so anyway, but it's a 7-rim mag.
Okay.
And so 7-rim mag probably is what makes everything else happen because that's the gun I grew up shooting. So when I finally got turned loose to hunt on my own, it's a rim mag.
Yep.
When I was given a gun by my dad, it was a rim mag.
Nice.
he opens it up and I got 10 bullets in a little like leather canvas pouch. I have no idea what they are. So I don't know. I know nothing.
Are they factory ammo?
They are factory ammo from a company called RWS, which is, I guess, in Europe, but not here. And so I did, I said, man, that looks about like a 140 grain pointed soft point, the Remington,
hey, here we go.
Green and yellow box. And says, I'm just going to pretend that's what it is. And he said it sighted in, zeroed at 200 meters.
Okay, meters, here we go. So you change
we had some challenges. Like the guide was convinced that, in talking, they were convinced that meters were way longer than yards. I'm like, no, it's like 3 inches longer.
Yeah.
And so I went into I was using my Vortex Furies, and I went in and just changed the settings. I'm like, that's going to be the easy button to this.
So your rangefinder was a meter.
I just changed my rangefinder to meters, and it's like, we're just going to like dispense with translating altogether, and did that right away. So then from then on, it was a non-issue because I just gave them the number.
Nice.
So that's what we had. 7 rim mag, sighted at 200 meters.
So you got the chamois out here.
So we got the chamois. So we find the chamois, and it's kind of moving in and out of rocks and whatnot, and the only way to shoot, it's 27-degree upslope, which is pretty stout. And we ended up ranging it it's 405 meters horizontally, and so about 200 meters up, something like that. So, for our viewing audience, it's about a 450-yard horizontal component shot.
Yep.
And so, in ballistic land, horizontal component is what governs our drop. That's what we care about.
Yep.
We set up on a rock over the packs, and it was good old Kentucky windage, through broken Italian and broken English, I think we need to be about 3 inches over its back. Smoked it.
So is it like the wind is at X kilometers an hour?
There was no wind. So I was comfortable going out. On the way up, I was like, never shot this gun. How comfortable am I?
Yeah.
It being a 7 rim mag, knowing that it's going to be running pretty fast with a light projectile, I was like, I'm probably comfortable to about the 400 meter mark. Yep. Basically, the thought was if I have to go more than a couple inches over the back, then the risk factor gets way higher.
Well, it's nice to set it in at 200 meters versus 100 meters. You had like less to deal with.
That made a huge difference because it changes the game quite a bit there. Yeah. But there was no real wind to speak of, which also was a big help. So
Paya, drop him.
Paya, he starts rolling, and the guys are looking at it like, you think you got him? Like, no, I definitely got him because I'm seeing him through this scope just flopping. I'm like, man, if the shot didn't get him, the fall got him. So we get him, and sure about that time we actually passed the other hunter who was on his way down.
Oh, nice! You're like, hey,
the trail kind of intersects. So we roll up and get this thing, and
that's cool.
It's pretty awesome. It highlighted some of the mountain hunting because we were shooting and clouds were like starting to descend. Cool. And you go from no clouds shooting, 20 minutes later, we're walking through fog. You can't see more than like 20 yards.
Jeez.
And then we're cleaning the animal and the cloud is actually below us.
That's crazy.
And so no one below us can see where we are, what we're doing.
So you're getting it shipped back over here?
Getting it shipped back over here. Yeah.
It's like one of those, see you in a year, buddy, or see you in a couple of years.
It's what they call they call it like a preparatory butcher.
Oh, so like
and so pack. I'm having them send it over here to Palermo.
So they'll dip and pack it and get it over here.
Yeah, that's what I'm having them do. Man, I know Alan and Matt and those guys, and they do such good work. And at the end of the day, they're like, 7 minutes from our office? Right. So you got like award-winning taxidermist 7 minutes from your office. We went to church with those guys.
Get it over here quicker.
Yeah, I'm going to try to get it over here and let them work with it from there. So
now I want to hit you up on one more thing because you were telling me a little bit. I think it's pretty cool. So tell me about the stag.
Oh yeah,
that was pretty cool.
Yeah, so the next morning, right? So we'll go back to Plan A, right? So the next morning we've got the gun now.
So now you're like, let's get something
now
else.
We're just like looking for big chamois. So the goal initially was a bigger chamois.
Yep.
And
is that all that's over there? So you got stag and chamois? Are there no other deer species?
Not necessarily. There's fallow and some other things. Now where we were hunting, it's stag and chamois.
Gotcha.
There are other locations where they got a lot of driven boar hunts and stuff like that. They got fallow deer.
Gotcha.
They have saca deer.
Oh yeah.
They also
do like a little elk.
And they have something that they called it a steenbuck. But something is not translating in that. It looks super close to a chamois because I identified several of them and I was like, I think there's another chamois. And he's like, no, that's a steenbuck. I don't know exactly what that critter was.
When I think of steenbuck, I think of like the little ones from Africa.
And it was a little dude, but I don't.
Like little dude?
No,
like
size of the chamois. It's chamois size.
Interesting. Let's look that up.
But anyway, so day 2, we're going for bigger chamois, back to Plan A. where we can get higher. So the first day we were in the bowl of the valley, and so there's a limit to how high you can get there.
Yeah.
And then we came up that same mountain from the backside on day 2. And so we're making our way up there that morning, and we come around a corner, and we can hear the stag roaring at each other.
That's really cool.
And we can see these guys. This one stag's got like a group of hinds down there. And this other stag comes out over this little low ridge, and he's coming right at us.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so I've got some video. I don't know if the video or footage will come out that we can like insert in here, but he's coming up to us, and he gets about 80 yards away before he sees us. And
you're like,
at that point, I was like, how much is a stag?
Is that stag?
How much is that? But it was in a spot where like my wife.
It's in euros, man. Don't worry about it.
We're like trying to figure this out. And I will say this: we could have shot either one because then we set up and I could see both of them for a long time. And I'm glad we didn't, even though like ultimately I did try to track one of them down and didn't. But I'm glad I didn't because if we would have taken one there, we wouldn't have kept going up the mountain. And that was pretty cool. The top half of the mountain was beautiful. Yeah. It was really cool there. Like at the midpoint, you had like raspberry bushes in season. At the top, you had like blueberries. I was like, this is the way to do things, man. Snacks all the way.
Yeah. Did you get a chance to try any of the chamois? Did they cook anything?
No, they did
not. Do they
not.
cook them?
They do a little bit,
okay.
yeah. But we didn't get a chance to try it there. But up at the top, it was cool because we got to kind of see the chamois navigating the cliff ledges and got some photos of some of them in some crazy stupid places for animals to be just. They
look really deep chested. So like when I look at them, I'm like, man, is it actually? And they're pretty tough country.
Yeah.
And I gotta imagine. I'm like in my head, I'm thinking, do they taste like an aoudad or do they taste better? Because that's like the bottom end of the bar, in my opinion. It's like,
I probably put them. I mean, I didn't taste them, so I can't tell you for sure. But I would say probably slightly better because just based on. They have some stuff to eat that seems better.
If anybody says, though, like, I tell you, where my line is, it's like that XYZ animal makes good sausage. I'm like, dude, it is done. No. You mix it in sausage to make it.
No. So that's the one thing I missed out on. Didn't get a chance to do that. Now, it was pretty cool where they put me at a little bed and breakfast. Again, one of the fun adventures of like hunting in a place, I don't speak Italian. And I tried a little bit. I tried to get some Italian, and they tried to get some English. But a whole lot of the time, like eating was just like they're like, "This is a local dish." I'm like, "Okay, well, let's bring it on.
There you go.
Let's see what it is."
I've heard the new earpods, new Apple earpods will translate language.
Interesting.
The next time, so you may not be able to say it back, but you can at least hear.
I did do Google Translate on the phone, and like I said earlier, it's like 80% right, 70% right. So most of the time it was really good. I had
that 30% will get you every time.
I took some screenshots of some of them that I was like, oh my gosh, like that. What are we saying here?
That's awesome.
But it was an awesome trip. Super fun. Like the last day we ended up going all the way up. Saw a lot of chamois. Got video footage of the 2 stags ultimately like fighting at one point. Came back.
So you only got to shoot the 7 mag one time.
Only got to shoot 7 mag one time.
You're like, man, here you go. Here's 9 bullets.
9 bullets left, and then there you go. So yeah, we made it count. Awesome. But it's a fun place. Europe is interesting. I still am of the opinion that I don't necessarily know that I would pay for the exclusive purpose of going hunting.
Yeah.
Like the hunt's not very long. And the challenge isn't seeing animals. The challenge is navigating the terrain.
Country, yeah.
So I don't know for me that it's a standalone trip. However, if you are already there in the Alps, it's
always
definitely
cheaper when you're there.
Well, it's always cheaper when you're there, and then it's an add-on at that point. You've already invested in the airfare. You're doing something else, and because they break up that season, at least in Italy, throwing 2 extra days on is not a huge deal.
All right. Speaking of airfare,
okay, yep.
Where's all your stuff, man?
The one we may never know. All right, this is my shout out to, or not shout out. This is my message to Iberia Airlines. Please check the airport in Madrid.
Somewhere there is a bag with spotting scopes and Kuyu, and somebody's winning.
I was super proud of myself because I told you this is like a wedding trip on the front end. So my wife and kids are doing like 3.5 weeks in Europe, and they only did a carry-on. And so my job was bring hunting gear and bring wedding clothes.
Oh no, you have everybody's wedding.
I have suits and dresses for my family of 5 for the rehearsal dinner and the wedding, and to have all my hunting stuff, including my pack, spotting scope, tripod, and I was proud of myself that I got it all in one suitcase. And now I'm thinking that I could have defrayed some risk and split it across two, but they lost my bag. I get to Dallas.
You get back here for a week and they still don't know.
Yeah, I get back to Dallas and no bag, and they're like, "Well, you're gonna have to call." So I think I passed the 72-hour mark, so they've escalated it.
And you're like, when they're like, "How much do we owe you for that bag?" You're like, $5,000 or $6,000, right?
Yeah,
and they're like, "Oh, we might want to find that one."
Well, yeah, they said like, "Well, can you provide us an itemized list?" And I'm like, "As a matter of fact."
Here's my packing list.
I can. Here's all my hunting gear that's in there, and here's this other gear. So, and and most of the time it wouldn't be a problem, but I came back and so I've got all or a substantial part of all my suits that I need for like next week. And then the hunting trip that I've got going hunting in Utah in about a month.
Yeah, about a month.
And so it'll be interesting. But yeah, so
if anybody from Kuyu's listening wants to re-outfit Trouper or hook us up with some bags from Mammoth,
yeah,
at us.
Yeah, the Kuyu guys, if you got any help you can offer me, I'd appreciate it. Iberia, if you're out there.
We need to start a Trouper GoFundMe, go hunt me.
Go find my bag at the airport and ship it back to me, please.
Oh my gosh, man, that's a mess.
But rather it on the back end than the front. So,
all right. So coming off of your, look, perfect timing. 1 minute. I mean, just nailed it. So right there at our 22-minute mark. So we're going to talk about what's on the horizon.
Yeah,
more so. Let's talk about how Mammoth training is going. How's Mammoth training going?
Yeah.
And how is pack building the pack going for you?
Yeah, so we are the way we talked about the plan is, even though the event's at the end of April, we're basically saying April is event month, so we're 6 months to event month now. Yep.
Which feels like I keep it's tomorrow, but it's out there ways.
It's a ways, but it's not. It depends. It kind of just depends. But for me, the trip, the trip for the wedding and the hunt was sort of a before and after signpost for me. So where are we training wise? Rifles built. Rifles getting shot this week. Getting started up there. I got
some ammo in from Hornady.
Got some ammo in from Hornady to test out, and mainly for practice. I'm going to end up testing 75, 80, and 88 ELDMs. Yep. So I'm running the 223.
Are you going to load or are you going to use factory ammo?
I'm probably going to load.
Okay.
I'm probably going to load. There's too much to be had.
I know.
From running a higher BC projectile and getting the velocity. So I'm training with the Superformance, which is the 75, whatever the hollow point. Yeah. But if you can run essentially same velocity, but move up to the 75 ELDM, you gain you go from a high 300s BC to a mid to high 400s.
It's a pretty big deal.
So I think I'm going to end up reloading, getting that set up.
How long did you go on that barrel?
I went 24.
Okay.
I went back and forth on a lot of stuff. But at the end of the day, I said, I'm going to go 24. Yeah. So that's kind of where rifle is. Gear-wise, I have the list. Yep. Got the pack weight. If everything goes the way we want and I get all the gear that we're planning to get and the weather cooperates, right? Because rain gear versus not rain gear, big deal. But I think we'll be 45 pounds
with the gun?
The pack.
In the pack?
In the pack means with the rifle, but not
the pistol.
The pistol. Yep. The pistol's on a person. So that's kind of where we're sitting right now. Ruck-wise, I feel like we're in a good spot, man.
Yeah,
I feel
it's been interesting. We learned, dude, shout out to the Garmin and their apps and stuff. That's been an incredible learning experience. It has. I turned 41 on Monday. And so I'm like, this has been good getting everything going. And we found out that I have way too short of a stride. We're doing the math. I'm like, man, I'm working a lot harder for going slower than Trouper over here. And we calculate back on the step app. I'm like, man, for every step I take, I'm a 6 inch shorter step.
6 inch shorter every step.
And so then it really hit me when you're like, when I finish at the end of 4 miles, you'll be a half a mile back. I'm like, God, we got to get this figured out. So now we're doing stretch lab and all that stuff, trying to bring that up a bit.
So I think my focus has been, we all have to make choice in terms of how we focus. We're looking at this as like a 4-part game with the mental game overlaid across all of it. But there's gear, there's fitness, and then there's pistol shooting, rifle shooting.
I'll tell you what I'm looking forward to, and I know this seems really weird. That's coming from a rifle guy, because I have been shooting like the ever living crud out of my 22 long rifle, and I'm enjoying it. It's just plinking all over the place at rate. Because I don't know if there's much more enjoyable than lobbing a 22 long rifle at 300 yards. I'm like, heck yeah, that was awesome. Dialing up, So that's been cool. But I am really excited about or looking forward to or anxious about. I don't know how you want to put it.
Yep.
I want to shoot the pistol more. Let's go.
Yeah, I feel like we're in good shape. I'd say overall, I think we're in really good shape on gear. We have primary and secondary, like what we want. We have our wish list.
Yeah.
And so now it's executing.
I think it's part of the deal is like we get to play with rifles so much
on
that
the
I'm
rifle
like,
side, I think we probably have maybe a head start. It's still practice to be done, but I think we're good there. And we both have started the rucking, and I think we have enough time where our main philosophy is don't get hurt.
Yep.
Don't get hurt, and then keep moving forward and keep progressing. I mean, I did a little mock. I call it a little mini mammoth.
That's a good idea.
Which is essentially it's one thing to do a long ruck and then you have a day off to rest, but mammoth part of the challenge is the accumulation. And so we've done some things like that where we're stacking the sequencing. Yep. And I think we're getting a good picture, but pistols is where that's kind of where we haven't touched as much.
Watching my YouTube videos, I just hopefully we'll get the whole staccato
YouTube's
thing.
got some shooters, buddy. Let me tell you, there's some folks out there, and shout out to those guys that put in the time and the work. I watched some of those, and I'm like, wow,
yeah, it's pretty impressive.
Those are some guys.
What's the one you sent me last night of the guy shooting skeet, which is insane?
Oh, I think that was a Pew View. Golly, that dude, man,
that's pretty impressive.
Shooting clays coming at him, and then shooting paintballs coming at him.
Pretty impressive.
Got some work cut out for us to do that. We'll settle for just being competent.
Yeah. And, like I said,
but that's where we are. I think we're in a good spot. I think dial the pistol in and we'll be in pretty good shape.
I want to roll up a little bit here as we kind of finish up the podcast. We take gear.
Yep.
So I was trying to build gear, and I want to say, fortunately, I couldn't get them to hook us up or sponsor us or give me any kind of deal, which really is frustrating.
Maybe they want to sponsor me.
Though. Yeah, maybe so. Maybe it's just that guy's full of it. But I went ahead and broke down. We're at the Shields looking at the Horizon display.
Yep.
And bought, which I thought was what does Tricer mean? And then you literally.
The logo looks like a Triceratops.
Triceratops. But these have been really cool.
Yeah.
I am impressed so far. I wish the legs adjusted a little bit faster or different. It feels like maybe the concentricity of the tube's not quite there.
Right.
But man, for as high as they go and as light as they are, that's what's going to be in my pack, I think, unless we try something different. But I'm
eager to try these because it has the same sort of adjustment. So I've used the SkyPod. Yeah. And so I'm familiar with it, and it is very fast to adjust, but it's also very heavy and pricey.
I don't know what these things weigh, but they're not.
These are substantially lighter, but the other thing is how far these go and how wide they go. It's going to be interesting to see how stable. So for those who haven't, they also turn the opposite direction, which is a big weird
thing to me. Yeah, I have a hard time getting my head around
thinking this is how far these guys go.
Plus, this doesn't include. There's another 6-inch adjustment you can add to this. It's in the pack with it.
The tallest form, it doesn't even fit. Maybe if you go wide angle, you can see it, but that's up there. I mean, this is sitting. That's sitting or kneeling. I think we tested out we could kneel with it. So I'm really curious to see how stable they are. I mean, that's kind of the calling card of the MDT is how stable it is. So this will be an interesting test.
We'll see. It'll be interesting to use. I know I couldn't help myself, but we got them at Shields.
Yep.
Went straight to my parents' house, strapped it on the, I've got a Venatic Carbon 22 Creed with thermal on it. Straight down the pasture, shoot a pig. I'm like, okay, I feel pretty good. I know how steady they are.
Hey, that's how I break all these things in: is shoot a pig, shoot a coyote,
live action,
break it in.
So, Trouper, appreciate it. And I think next week, a couple things coming up. Next week I'll probably grab Austin. He is currently on an antelope hunt with the guys at Hornady.
I saw a picture of his. So now we look up all of a sudden, and he and I both have goats down.
I know. I've got a rough start to the season.
You've been on that elk. You were on the bow hunt for the elk.
Should not have. Like I said. I'm running behind so far. I haven't notched as much, but getting kind of got you got Utah coming up. I've got. It looks like we're gonna have Montana.
You got Montana and an Arizona coming up over the next month,
and so Austin getting back, and then I want to say on the week of the 20th for you guys in the kind of competition space who've been asking, about using your Horizon rifle in certain classes of competition. We've got an exciting announcement.
Certain classes of certain competitions.
Classes of certain competitions. We've got an exciting announcement for you Horizon followers on the week of October.
That's something
20th.
you and I have been talking about for a while. We're excited about it, and it opens doors not just for our customers, which is awesome, but also opens some doors for us to explore some things we wanted to do. So.
You will start seeing me at more of this certain competition in a certain factory division really, really soon. So
that's awesome.
Cool, guys. Well, I appreciate it. Thanks for listening to this episode of On the Horizon, and we'll catch you next week.